Testing.
Good evening, everyone. Today we are meeting the school committee. It's Monday, January 12th, 2026, and we'll call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. If everyone could please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could please go around and introduce members of the committee, and then following that, we will be electing a chair pro tem.
Scott Harriman, City Council Representative to the School Committee.
Donna Gallant, Ward 7.
Julia Harper, Ward 4.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Luke Jensen, at large.
Jake Lang, Superintendent.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
The next item for business is to elect a chair pro tem. Is there anyone interested in serving in that capacity tonight? To nominate? Good.
I'd like to nominate Phoenix McLaughlin for chair tonight.
Any other nominations? Okay, go ahead and vote.
All right, well, I'll accept the nomination.
That's true.
Thank you.
Probably check first. Then.
Thank you. Do you want to call a vote then?
All those in favor? Seeing no objections?
Okay, thank you. Do we need to, yeah, it was, we were getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure why that is, but, sorry, just one second.
Sound check. Yep, that does sound better. Thank you, Austin.
All right, thank you all for being here. So we'll get started with the agenda. The next item is agenda item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Any items that members wish to see set aside on the consent agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, that is adopted. So item number 5 is public input. And so this item is for public input on items that are not on the agenda tonight. So this is just for general items. I'm going to read the parameters here. So members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Speakers must adhere to our public comment policy, BEDH, which is available in the back of the room or on the LPS website. These meetings exist to conduct school committee business. The purpose of the public comment is to share thoughts on school and educational matters. Committee members and school staff will not reply during this time. Comments must be directed to the chair and be civil. By law, comments may not pertain to specific staff or students. Comments about individuals must be directed privately to the appropriate LPS staff. Student privacy must be maintained. The public comment period is 30 minutes. Unless extended due to unusual circumstances. Priority goes to Lewiston residents and parents, students, or employees of LPS. Before starting, please state your name, town or city of residence, and affiliation to LPS. So anyone who would like to speak on non-agenda items, you can do so now. Okay. So I will take it everyone is here for agenda items in that case. And we will keep moving right along. Last call for any comment on non-agenda issues. Okay. All right. So agenda item number 6 is to review and potentially vote on the second read of the following policies listed A through C. That's patriotic exercise, flag displays, and student dress. Yes, Member Bowden.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the second read of items A through C.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion from members of the committee? Yes, Member Eames.
There was an error in the draft that we got. It said racial ethnic slurs, etc. And what we should have had, what we had agreed upon in the policy committee meetings was slurs, etc., not racial, ethnic slurs, etc. And so I think we should amend it. I think it's I think it's the dress code one. So that was an error, a clerical error and I should have caught it last round, but I didn't catch it because it looked right in most of its contours. So is there a way for us to, through procedure, do that one edit and then vote on it?
Yes, that I think
It's
it
a
would,
friendly
it would have to
amendment.
be accepted by Member Bowden uh, and who seconded?
I think
Councilor
Scott.
Harriman. Yeah.
Sorry, Councilor Harriman. So yeah, as long as they accept that
Yeah,
adjustment, which we did pick up on at the end of last.
Yeah,
Remember, he
but-
did let us know, but
yeah.
I didn't want to change it without
Yeah.
this dialogue.
I'm fine with that edit, with my motion.
Councilor Harriman.
That's
Yeah,
good with me
okay.
too.
Okay, other comments from the committee on these policies? Okay, we will see if there's any public comment on these policies. So, yeah, so I'm not sure if folks are here to speak on one or more of these policy items, you are welcome to do so. We'll have a public comment period. The same rules apply as I mentioned earlier. I might just point out, if many of you are here to speak on this, that we do ask that if people have the same thing to say as others, maybe, can truncate your comments so that more people have the chance to speak. And we are going to need to have a time limit for the overall period here, which, as mentioned before, is 30 minutes for the public comment period. So we will keep track of that. I will also have a timer going. So with that said, if anyone would like to speak on this issue, you are welcome to approach the podium and do so. I also do want to, just so people know, this doesn't need to change your comment, but just so it's clear, the motion right now is to keep the policy as it is. I just want that to be clear, but please go ahead.
Hello, school committee and Superintendent Langlis. My name is Emmeline Carey, and I'm the student body president of Lewiston Middle School. I am here to speak on behalf of my peers on the consideration of updating the flag policy. In some of my classes today, I asked for the students' opinion on this, and as middle schoolers, we rarely agree on anything unanimously, but this reaction was visceral. Almost every student I told was disgusted and baffled that this was even a consideration. Getting kids to come to school is hard enough. This would be an effort to take away the one visual representation of their identity, approximately 2400 BC, and we only find a problem with it now. That seems unlikely and targeted at certain groups of students. This incredible place has kids coming from 85 countries of birth, 47 other US states, and speaking 42 home languages to statistically the second largest and most diverse district in Maine. I'd like to pass around a photo of exactly I'd like to pass around a photo of exactly what you see when you walk into our school. These flags mean more than you could ever imagine to so many people, and everyone sees that when they walk into the building. After school today, I was talking to music teacher Sarah Drool. She was telling me that a high school class from the early 70s came to tour the school, and the moment they walked into the building, they were mesmerized by the plethora of flags in the lobby. The exact same things happen every year to sixth graders on step-up day. On my first day of the Gifted and Talented program run at the middle school in sixth grade, I could have stared at those flags for hours, imagining the story and culture behind them. To conclude, this proposal would be an effort to erase the rich cultural representation that we have in our district and take our students' pride with it. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Hello, school committee and Superintendent Langlis. My name is Julia Shannon, and I'm a student representative from Team Denali. I'm here to share that the consideration of taking down the flags is absurd. Just because I look at a Bruins flag does not mean I'm a Bruins fan and all the other flags out there. Passing the policy would make people feel unwelcome here. We care about making people feel welcome, so why would we go and take the step to remove the flag? As a student representative, students have came to us before they found out about the policy, saying that when they walk into the school and see all the flags hanging in the lobby, they feel welcomed. And we also have so many students who are from different parts of the world. In addition, hearing from the multilingual teacher saying that when they teach students from other countries and show them their flags, it helps their students make connections to countries to show them their flags, and helps the students make connections. Oh, they add it into their curriculum. And also it shows and teachers that it shows that the teachers are saying it's okay to embrace their flag and their culture. Also, teachers are supposed to be building background knowledge, but we are basically taking the background knowledge away from not only us, but majority of students that attend Lewiston Middle School. We have some adults took Spanish for 4 years, only remember 3 words. Yet, some of the students that walk into the building every day know multiple languages, and we want to take the pride away from them. What are we accomplishing from that? We are not gaining anything from that. I fear that we have bigger things that we could be taking care of instead of taking pride and the sense of being included. Students are disgusted hearing about this. I'm hoping we can come to an agreement. If we have more time at the end, we have more student statements we would like to share. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Noah.
This one? Hello, my name is Noah Comer. I live in Lewiston and I am a student at Lewiston High School. As a representative for my DA, students have come up to me throughout this day telling me about this policy. And when I first heard about it, I was utterly mortified. Taking away the one thing, so at Lewiston High School, we pride ourselves with our diversity. Students who come from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, cultures, and other things are already underappreciated enough. Taking away their flags and their ways of representation is stripping them of the possible one thing that makes them feel connected to other students at the school. It is utterly disgusting, and I am mortified to even have to come up to here and say against this. I'm surprised this was even brought up. We should not be taking away flags. It is a blatant disregard of the First Amendment right of freedom of expression, and it is crazy. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Willett. I live in Lewiston. I'm also a student of Lewiston High School. As a student who's been going here since my freshman year, and even in middle school, I went to a Lewiston school as well. I never really felt represented, I guess, as a queer student. When I came to Lewiston and I saw the flags and I saw that there were pride flags in classrooms and different countries' flags like placed all over the place, I honestly kind of felt more at home. I think that removing that, again, like previously stated, is disgusting. I fear walking into this building any day. If I'm being totally honest, I feel that queer kids here are underrepresented, and having our flags up in the hallways, in classrooms, helps us feel more human. At least I speaking for myself, I feel a lot more human walking into a classroom and seeing that my flag is on the wall. I think that removing that just removes expression from people. Looking back, I think if we look at hospitals or prisons or psychiatric wards, which are all places that feel trapped, their walls are bare. There's virtually nothing there, and it's to make you feel like you're in a place to be punished. I think that removing flags off of school walls would also have the same effect. I personally, going to school every single day, also feel trapped in a room where no one understands me. And I think that removing my flag off the wall is not going to help that at all. That's just going to boost the feeling of feeling alone. I've also spoken to peers who come from different countries, and I've asked them about the flags today. And a lot of them told me the same thing, that coming from a different country to America, to this school, and entering the cafeteria, seeing their flag on the wall, it reminds them that they are home a little bit. It's a little piece of home and memory. And to even remove that, to even think about removing that as a distraction, I think is just totally not okay. I don't think that flags are distracting. If flags I don't think that flags have the ability to hurt your feelings. You don't have to agree with the flag. You don't have to agree with the flag. You don't have to appreciate what it means, but you can still respect it without being disrespectful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up.
I've written something on my phone, so give me a second to pull it up. Good evening. My name is Hunter Bouchard, and I'm the sophomore class president. I would like to focus on one argument that has been brought up regarding this flag debate. The idea that these flags, being in a classroom environment, distract students from learning. This is far from the case. These flags do not hurt learning, and in fact often aid learning for many students. They are a symbol of safety and representation for many students. Over my many years of school, I've talked with a lot of students. People ranging from all across the political spectrum, gender spectrum, everyone. Not once have I heard of a student who is unable to learn due to one of these flags being in a classroom. They represent safety for those who need it, but do not inhibit those who don't need that safety. These so-called political flags do not hinder the education of the people at the school, no matter where they align on the political spectrum. Having these flags up does not inhibit learning, but taking them down might. A school's main focus is to create a safe environment for people to learn. Learning is best achieved when students feel comfortable and in place. Many students see these flags as a sign of safety and comfort. They feel like they are part of a community. To many people, the American flag does not represent that same sense of community. These symbols of safety allow for a positive learning environment for many kids, and taking that away will make it harder for them to go to school and learn. This whole proposition makes me ask the question, where do we stop? If a flag can be distracting to students, so can anything a teacher wants to put up on their classroom. Maybe it's a college certificate or a picture one of their children drew. But anything can be distracting. This goes against the teacher's freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But why is it specifically the things that make people feel safe that are a problem? It doesn't make sense, and it feels like an attempt to quietly discriminate against students. There's no reason to go about this proposition. I'm not represented by these flags. I'm a straight white male. However, I can see how this change can deeply hurt so many members of my community. If you really care about the well-being of these students and want this to be the best place possible for them, do not support this proposition. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Emily DeRosiers. I'm a sophomore at Lewiston High School and I live in Lewiston. And when I heard about this, I heard about it at lunch today. I was absolutely distraught. I didn't think this would even happen in our city of all cities. We have so much difference in our city, and not allowing other flags in our school besides the American flag and the main flag is blatant discrimination against anyone whose flag they're removing. People feel included by having their flags up. By saying the American flag represents us all is a direct slap to the face of students and teachers whose communities are targeted by the leader of our country and the government. These representations of these communities in our school could be what and the only acceptance they feel all day, and could change their mood completely going into the cafeteria and seeing their flags on the wall. I was also upset to hear that the direct group being targeted by this slightly was the LGBT community, and saying that there was no place in school, and if it's not a part of the curriculum, it shouldn't be in the school. That hurt. It hurt to hear that my identity and how I am in my community has no place here, where I spend most of my days, every day, most of the days of the year. If you try to get rid of flags, like I stated, it would mean teachers wouldn't be able to have anything non-school related on their walls. At this point, this completely goes against freedom of expression. While not only being a slap in the face to students, it would also be a slap in the face to teachers too. Is it worth going through all of this trouble just to not have flags on our wall? Does this flag offend you guys that much to take it down? Thank you.
Thank you. Just 1 second before we continue. So
Yeah,
we're
you're good.
about halfway through the 30-minute period. Could people raise their hand if they were hoping to speak on this item this evening? Okay, if you're hoping to speak on this one, what is that, maybe another dozen at least, I'm thinking. Okay, I might ask if we can, you've been pretty good about keeping it brief. I might ask if we can keep it even faster. And we'll try to get through as many as we can. And I might check back in another 10 or 12 minutes and see how we're doing on time, but please go ahead.
I would first like to apologize. I am a little sick, so I might sound a little funny. My name is Maya Gunther, and I am a senior at Lewiston High School this year. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak tonight. I'm here because I strongly oppose the proposal to require teachers to remove all flags except the American and Maine state flags. From a student perspective, flags like pride flags or Black Lives Matter flags and even college banners are not distractions. Most students are not staring at flags instead of paying attention in class. What we actually notice is how the classroom feels. For many students, these flags are quiet signals of safety and belonging. They tell students that they are respected, supported, and welcome in that space. When students feel that way, they participate more, take academic risks, and are more engaged in learning. That directly supports academic success. I also don't understand what problem this policy is meant to fix. These flags have not caused disruptions, lowered academic standards, or interfered with instruction. Teachers are professionals and should be trusted to create classrooms that work for their students. If the concern is distraction, then consistency matters. College flags are allowed because they inspire students to think about their future. Pride flags or Black Lives Matter flags inspire students to feel accepted for who they are right now. Both are positive messages. Both are positive messages, and neither takes away from learning. This policy may seem small, but its impact on students is not. For LGBTQ+ students, students of color, and students who already feel like they don't fully belong, removing these symbols sends a message, even if that message isn't intended. School should prepare us for the real world. The real world is diverse. Avoiding that reality doesn't make us better students, it makes us less prepared. If a flag that makes students feel seen is considered distracting, then maybe the real distraction is the discomfort of adults and not learning students. Thank you.
Next up, please. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone attending today's school board meeting. My name is Ayana Warren, and I have been attending Lewiston Public Schools since I was in pre-K. I am here today to discuss the flags being displayed at our school. Growing up, I have never been opposed to speeches. In fact, I actually happen to enjoy them. Yet the fact I have to make this one is disappointing, not only to me, but to many other members of this community. As a person of color in a state that is between 91 to 93% white, I hope you can understand me when I say that any piece of inclusion counts, even something that may seem small and insignificant, like a flag. Though I feel lucky enough to be in one of the few spaces in the state with others who look like me. For people coming from different parts of this world, it is still entirely different. It is still extremely isolating. Your pride for America and this state can also live alongside people's pride of their identities and cultures. And if that scares you, then that is a separate issue. As someone who doesn't know about the countries and spaces my family came from, I celebrate and encourage those who do to be represented. To many, it may just be a flag, but to just as many, it is not. To a lot of people, it is a sense of belonging, a sense of community, or most importantly, a sign of acceptance in a not so accepting world. So whether it is a flag to include color, countries, or presentation, I ask that you do not take that away. I ask that you let them keep their flag. Thank you.
Go ahead. Just tap the button to, yeah, there you go.
Good evening, you guys. My name is Kaya Poulin, and I am a 17-year-old high school student that lives in Lewiston, Maine. I have also attended Lewiston Public Schools since preschool to now, where I am a junior. Since we are here today to talk about flags in our schools, and I go to school 5 days a week, I would like to tell you about the flags we see at school every day. Obviously, in every classroom, there is an American flag. Some teachers have multiple American flags. In our Spanish class, there is a string of flags from all of the Spanish-speaking countries. In the French classroom, likewise, there is all the flags that speak French. There's teachers that have LGBTQ+ flags. I have a teacher who has a sign that reads, "Her story is half of history," because she teaches American history class. In the Aspirations Lab, there's flags of the many different colleges that our students have been accepted to as an example of our excellence. And in our cafeteria, there are the flags of the home countries of all the students who have graced our high school hallways. These flags have never once distracted me from learning in class, walking the hallways, or eating my lunch. In fact, before today, if you were to ask me how many flags or what flags my teachers had in their classrooms, I would have no idea. These flags can make people feel represented and accepted and are easy ways for teachers to decorate their classrooms. That is all it is. Like a poster, map, calendar, or even a clock, these flags deserve to be hung on our walls. As us students go about learning, we deserve to do this in a space that makes us feel seen and heard. These flags do not harm anyone or take away from anybody's learning, but they can and do help people feel welcome in our school, which is what we should all want for our youth. Finally, I just want to say that diversity is one of our biggest strengths in our community. The idea that so many people from so many places and experiences have ended up in the same school and same community is a beautiful thing. In such a divisive world, I think it is very important to connect with each other and not make any unnecessary moves to other the people in our community. I think that it only benefits us to showcase our diversity and celebrate it with pride. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Pulsifer. I am a parent of 2 students at LPS in elementary and in the middle school, and I'm also an employee of LPS. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I want to share my concerns about the proposal to ban all flags other than the American and the Maine state flag through the lens of student outcomes, staff retention, and school climate. As a United States Army veteran, I hold a deep respect for the American flag and what it represents: liberty, service, and the responsibility to protect the people entrusted to our care. Those values are central to why I work in education. Educational research and guidance from national organizations consistently show that students who feel a strong sense of belonging and psychological safety are more engaged academically, have better attendance, and experience improved mental health outcomes. When students feel unseen or excluded, schools often see increased disengagement, behavioral challenges, and absenteeism. Our district serves a highly diverse community. We have students and staff from many countries and cultural backgrounds. That diversity is a strength, and supporting it requires thoughtful policies that foster belonging and trust. It is also important to note that the United States has never stood in neutrality when it comes to human dignity and civil rights. Throughout our history, progress has come not from silence, but from affirming values such as equality, freedom of expression, and protection for those who are vulnerable. Our schools have long reflected these principles through inclusive practices that support student learning and safety. Symbols of inclusion in schools are not political statements. They function as environmental indicators of safety and belonging, particularly for students and staff who may already feel marginalized. And a blanket ban risks removing those signals and unintentionally harming our school climate. This proposal also places educators and admin in the difficult position of enforcing subjective boundaries, which can create inconsistency and conflict, outcomes that negatively affect learning environments. The American flag stands for liberty, justice, and opportunity for all, Policies that foster inclusion and belonging are not in conflict with these ideals. They are an expression of them. I urge the committee to consider the educational, cultural, and workforce impacts of this proposal and to prioritize policies that strengthen rather than restrict belonging in our schools. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Akia Brimage, and I currently go to Lewiston High School. I am a junior, and I've been in the school district my entire life. The high school district is a extremely diverse place, just Lewiston as a whole is. And it has so many cultures being represented, and I don't think we should take that away. Freshman year, when I first walked into the high school, the first doors I walked through were the gym doors into the lobby of the cafeteria. I saw all of the different flags, and I was absolutely amazed by what they looked like. There was flags that I hadn't even seen before. I was so happy that people were being that people were being represented and got to see their countries, like places they have gone to or places they've been that they've come from. I also saw these same things in elementary school and in middle school and was happy they were still being reinforced. The school district is always talking about diversity and how we have a lot of it in Lewiston. I think that taking away the flags completely goes against what everyone talks about. I feel, and so many others feel, that without the flags, the school will lose the things they preach about the most. Thank you.
So just to interrupt, so I see 4 people standing, including yourself, and I think we'll limit the public comment on this item to those 4 of you.
Okay.
So please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Enzo Giampaolo, and I live in Lewiston, and I'm a senior at Lewiston High School. Flags don't impede learning. Frankly, I find this whole situation ridiculous. As a student at Lewiston Public Schools for the last 12 years, I have never once encountered a person, student, teacher, or otherwise who had a problem with the flags we fly in our schools. Now, let's be clear. As a student, I can tell you there are 3 types of flags I see commonly at school. First, and most importantly, is the American flag. This represents the ideals we share as American students. By law, the district is required to fly this flag, and I'm certain no one here today has an issue with that flag. Now, the second type of flag I've seen is a country or national flag. As you know, our students come from wildly diverse backgrounds. As they sit in the cafeteria each day, looking around and finding a flag which is familiar to them isn't a bad thing. It doesn't impede learning, and it doesn't push an agenda. The third type of flag I see is also a flag which symbolizes an identity, and that's the pride flag. Now, I have a hunch that this is what the fuss is all about, but I would like to make something clear. Identity is not a political ideology. Sexual orientation is not a political ideology, and neither of those things push an agenda. You may not share or endorse that identity, but that's the beautiful thing about this country. We're all a little different. A community without any diversity is a textbook dystopian society. What we're seeing today is an attempt at homogenization of our community. Unfortunately, this won't work. It is inherently American to celebrate our individual identities. National loyalty does not require a squashing of individual identity, and it is inherently American to celebrate our heritage, whether it is Irish American, Somali American, or Angolan American. As far as I see it, the only flags which should be disallowed are those that promote hate or violence. Any other flag that offers students a sense of belonging or identity does a whole lot of good without any bad. These flags represent our students' identities and foster a space for our students to flourish. In my 12 years, this has never been an issue. So ask yourselves, why is this all of a sudden a problem? Who are the people making this a problem? What agenda do they have? And what political climate might be emboldening them to push this right now? Thank you.
Next up. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Hamdi Mohammed. I am from Ward 6, and I am the class president of class of 2026 here at the high school. When I heard about this amendment to the policy, I had knots in my stomach. Here in Lewiston, we have one main strength, our diversity. And this amendment would seek to remove that advantage and would seek to remove what we have over all the other cities in Maine. And I frankly find that it is a horrible idea to try and remove our one advantage here. And also, we are a melting pot. Here in America, we have been a melting pot since the creation of the country. And that is yet another advantage we have. And to try and remove any diversity here in our school seeks to attack that melting pot, to remove one of the ideals that has made America America. There has been one good thing that has come out of this amendment, though. It has brought all of us together. It has brought all of us together and shown that we will fight against anything that tries to attack our rights. We will fight and we will band together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Mohammed Dakani, and I'm a senior at Lewiston High School, and I thank you all for this opportunity to speak today. To share a bit about my background, when I was in first grade, I was placed into an English language development class, and at the time, I did not fully understand what was happening. I was only told that during our reading and writing blocks, me and a group of students would be taken to a different classroom. I remember feeling uneasy as we walked down the hallway, and I was unsure of where we were being taken, if our seclusion meant something. When I entered the room, my eyes immediately went to a small flag of Somalia. It wasn't attention grabbing nor a distraction. It was just a small rectangle hanging by a thread. I felt understood when I saw that flag, and I knew that room would be a space that was meant to support students like me. That flag did not distract me. It reassured me, and because of that, I was able to learn better. I know right now, and I will say this for that, I know right now that there's another child like that in our elementary school systems, a student walking into a classroom carrying fear, language barriers, or uncertainty. If we take away these symbols, we take away moments of safety from children who need the most. As students move into middle school, belonging becomes even more important. These are the years when identity feels fragile and students begin to question whether they fit in, and everybody's trying to find their new cliques. During my freshman year of high school, I remember walking into the cafeteria and seeing a beautiful display of country flags from all around the world. Only allowing the flags of Maine in the United States sends an unintended message, and it can imply that other identities are less valid or that students should separate their cultures from their academic lives. That's not neutrality. It's exclusion, even if it's unintentional. This policy also affects student organizations. Clubs like the Black Student Union exist to give students space to build community, advocate for themselves, and take pride in who they are. If students are not allowed to display symbols like a Black Lives Matter flag, then the purpose of these clubs becomes unclear. A club that cannot represent its mission becomes symbolic rather than meaningful. If the concern is distraction, there are far more serious issues we should be addressing, such as class sizes or teacher shortages. We should not be worried about which flags are displayed in our schools. We should be worried about whether a student can look at a flag and point it out on a map. Because when students feel seen and supported, education works. I urge the board to focus on what truly matters and to leave our flags alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this will be our last public comment on this item. Please go ahead.
Hi, I actually wasn't planning on speaking at all, so thank you for giving me the time to speak. My name is Shauna Langlois. I am born and raised in Lewiston. I'm a Lewiston alumni as well. My heritage is Franco-American and Irish, so I feel pretty at home in our city. I also am married to a man, and I have 3 children, all in the Lewiston school system. I feel like it would be a really big disservice for me to not speak on this as someone who fits the stereotypical mold for the American flag. Outside of just other countries being represented, we also have the pride flag, and any other flags that might represent different demographics. I want my children to ask questions, right? I have 3 kiddos all in elementary school, and my goal for them is at the end of the day, they can come home safe. If I were planning on speaking on something today, it would have been something like gun violence or any of the many really scary things that we see every day that should be talked about in regards to education, flags should not be one of the things that we are holding this big meeting about. This is something that every child should be able to see and ask questions about, whether it's other countries or, like we said, the pride flag. My children so far all have boyfriends and girlfriends and are stereotypical little kiddos. But if there ever comes a day where they see the pride flag and they associate with it in any way or they have questions about it, I want them to feel welcome and at home. I want them to ask questions. Kids from our generation didn't ask questions. That representation wasn't really there yet. They didn't have the same kind of representation that they do now in schools for everybody. Other countries, sexual orientation. I remember in high school, in the cafeteria, actually, the whole cafeteria was lined with all the flags from different countries. And anytime a new student would come from another country, they would hang their flag. And that was like a huge pride point. I thought that was great growing up. And knowing my children might not have that same ability as they grow up makes me really sad. So I just feel like the questions that we have here, my biggest question is like, based on data, what would be the whole point of this from a positive standpoint? Like what is it that would benefit my children in school if we remove all the flags? I don't know what the data says about their distraction or about anything other than what the agenda is, but it just doesn't feel like something that's necessary. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, so back to the committee, and just to restate, so the motion on the table is to pass these three policies as is without amendment, which again, just for the public means that there would not be any change to the existing flag policy, meaning flags would stay basically as they are. So any further comment or discussion from members of the committee? Member Eames?
I'm just joyful at the display of deep thought and caring that our students have provided us, and also some of the staff. So thank you so much. And I hope you are slightly relieved. Thank you.
Member Judson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess just for the public's sake, the reason this is up tonight and you guys all heard about this is every few years, the committee reviews policies. All policies get reviewed. So it goes through the review process. We have a policy subcommittee. And so once it gets out of that subcommittee, it comes up to us for the final approval. So this flag policy went through the normal procedure. And when it got to us, I shouldn't say us because I wasn't on the committee at the time, but on the December 15th meeting of the last committee, during that meeting, they brought up the idea of changing the language in this. So this was never an initiative pushed by the school committee to change this. This was just by some members that brought it up at a meeting when this was discussed. So just for what it's worth, you guys, please don't think that we're trying to throw some things at you in that way. But that's kind of how this all came about. Apparently now the concerns that existed last time are dismissed. I'm very happy to and very proud of all the kids that spoke up tonight. You guys did wonderful. You spoke very eloquently. You guys made your cases extremely well. I don't know if you guys take debate in high school, but your debate teachers will be very proud of you. And so, you know, I was going to give my own example about how having an anchor chart up last year for my 4th grade class and how half of them still didn't pass the math test, even though it was in front of them for, you know, how to multiply fractions for weeks. But I think the example someone gave about the Boston Bruins flag being up is not going to turn someone into a Bruins fan. So I'll kind of leave it at that. I absolutely intend for this term in the school committee to focus just on the issues, some of which you guys talked about, and not try to politicize any part of the school district. So that's going to be my intention going forward, and I am very appreciative of everybody who spoke tonight. So thank you.
Okay. Yes, Member Harper.
I also just wanted to reiterate a thanks. It's really amazing to see so many students here and staff speaking so eloquently and passionately, and message received about the sense of belonging and safety and honoring of diversity that these messages can have for your school environment. And this is my second school committee meeting as a new member, and I would just love to see student impact on a lot of different issues. hopefully, on ones that are, even ones that you're bringing to us. So thank you so much.
Anything else from the committee? Okay, yeah, I'll just second the thanks for everyone showing up. It's great to see engagement. And you're welcome to stick around for the financial audit review if that excites you. But if not, I do understand, and thank you for coming out tonight. So yes, I think it's fair to go ahead and put this to a vote. So all in favor of approving these policies, please raise your hand. Okay, it is unanimous. Okay. So moving on to agenda item number 7 is a review of the district hiring process with HR Director Susanna Gallant. And I think we might just give it a minute or so as people shuffle around, and then we'll get started again. Okay, I think we're ready to get started here again. Yeah, okay. All right, that's off now. Great. Got it. Yes, okay. That was just some echo from the laptop. So yes, please go ahead whenever you are ready. We're just pulling up some slides here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susanna Gallant. I'm the Human Resources Director for Lewiston Public Schools. I know most of you, but some of you I haven't met, so I look forward to working with you a little more as we move on. Jake asked me to put together a walkthrough of the hiring process for you so that we can kind of have an idea of what the flow is for an applicant when they come in. So that is what the intent of this presentation is. You each have a workflow sheet that's been handed out to you that kind of captures what I'm going to talk about in this slideshow. So if you want to move to the next one. So basic question, where do we get our applicants? Where are we advertising? You know, we're working with a group of advertisers that specifically list jobs for schools, people who are looking to work in public schools, but we also list those same jobs with places like Indeed. The purpose of that is you never know if you want to be a teacher, and we have a lot of people here in our district who aren't teachers and see an ad and want to ask a question and come in and say, what am I qualified for? And lo and behold, you are qualified to work in a school district. And that's how a lot of people get on the path to becoming certified educators or administrators or whatnot. So these are a lot of the places that we typically advertise on. Of course, our website. We do attend a number of job fairs, college job fairs, local community job fairs, where we're just getting the word out that, you know, there are opportunities, come talk to us. You can go to the next one, Jake. So what do we look for on an application? Well, people apply to our positions a number of ways. We get some that come through the Indeed.com portal, which inevitably gives us an idea of who they are, but we actually then have to steer that person back to the Lewiston Public Schools portal so that they fill out our actual application and documents that go with that. We want to know their work history, how it applies to what they are looking to do for us. We want to know about student teaching, your internship record. We need to see transcripts. We need to see your educational records. If you're coming to us already certified, we need to have copies of that. If you're coming to us from out of state, we need to have copies of that certification record so that we can look at what that's going to look like here in Maine. We look at your criminal background details. So that's a multi-step process, and I'll get into that a little bit more in detail later. We ask some statements about your skills and knowledge. What do you know? How do you know it? How are you going to apply that to the job that you want to do for us? Language skills. Do you speak multiple languages? Do you have a background that could be useful, you know, in what you're looking to do or maybe somewhere else in the district? And professional references. And I'll talk about those reference checks a little bit as we move on. So the legal disclosures on the application. There are a number of questions that we ask, which are asking you basically tell us the truth, because we're going to find out. So we want to know your current contract status. Are you under contract in another district? Are you looking to have to break a contract to come and work for us? So that's important information. Has your certification ever been revoked or suspended here in Maine or in another state? We're wanting to know that up front. Have you ever been asked to resign or been non-renewed in a teaching or an educational position? Have you ever been the subject of an internal investigation? We're asking people to tell us that information and share with us what that means. Have you ever been terminated from a position, and if so, why? What was the reason for that? And are you related to a board member, an administrator, or a supervisor? Because we definitely want to make sure that we're aware that we don't have family working for family. So a word on those disclosures. Basically, we're looking for truth from our applicants, right? They can be tricky. If we ask them a question and they tell us no, how do we verify no? Former employers are not required to disclose information to us when we call for references. So for instance, if I have someone who is let go here under an investigatory status, they're terminated, we are going to tell Department of Education. We're going to report that information as a practice here in LPS. Some districts don't. So that puts us into a position of how do we verify the information we're being told. Former employers can literally say, these are the dates that the person worked here and that is it. They don't even have to tell us if that person is rehirable. So generally speaking, employer who has terminated someone during an investigation under questionable circumstances. If they're not reporting that information to the Department of Education when we check certification, the only way that we can really verify that is by the applicant telling us that that is the issue. If they've been charged, now if they've been convicted, that's a whole nother issue. But if there's a charge or there's an allegation or something that hasn't actually come to a final fruition, a lot of that is dependent upon the information that the employers are willing to share with us. And like I said, as a matter of regular practice, we do report to DOE if someone is let go, but we can't say that all districts do that. So the applicant interview and the next steps. Once we have an application, everything looks good, everything seems to be honest answer and moving forward, we'll conduct an interview. That interview happens at the school level. So that interview is going to happen with the hiring manager. It could happen with just that person. It could be multiple people. It depends on the position and the technical skills that are being looked for in that position. There could be more than one interview. There could be, a number of interviews to whittle down an applicant group. Once an applicant is chosen, that's when we're going to check those references. So we know we want to hire Mr. Johnson. We're going to start making our phone calls. We're going to start sending out our digital forms on how we're going to get verification of employment. So we do have a reference check piece in our software program. We can actually tie that to whomever is the applicant's reference, electronically goes out to them, comes back to us, but at the same time, we're also making phone calls to those people to say, hey, sent you a form, did you get it? Is there anything that we didn't ask? Or maybe you've had a couple of questions that you see on the resume that you want a little more detail about. So those things are happening while we're deciding that this is the person that we want to move forward. Once we determine that we want to move that person forward, that's when a nomination takes place. So the nomination is a digital form that's completed that represents the position, the details of the position. Is this replacing someone? Is this a new position in our budget? What is the person's experience, the number of years? What do they bring to the table as far as why they're being nominated? And that comes to Human Resources. When Human Resources gets that kind of triggers a whole waterfall of things that happen. So the first thing that happens when that comes in, we send an authorization to release information to that applicant. That applicant digitally signs that, sends that back to us. Once we get that back, we do our own internal criminal background checks, which are in addition to the ones that are done at the Department of Education through fingerprinting. So we do those. We are looking for sex offender registration records. We search those to make sure that the person isn't listed there. And if they're driving, we will run a driving record to make sure that they're able to drive the school vehicles. While that is happening, if there are physical exams that have to be scheduled, custodial, things like that, we'll go ahead and get those set up, get a date ready. And then once we get a clear on those background checks, we'll have them go and do those physicals. Once those physicals, background checks, everything come back, everything looks good. We're then looking at their application with DOE. Do they have a certification on file? Have they applied for the appropriate certification? Have they done their fingerprinting? Have they applied for their fingerprinting appointment? DOE will issue a temporary background release while they're waiting for the fingerprints to be completed. So that's why we also run an internal background check to make sure that that's happening simultaneously. Once those all come back, we will then send a conditional offer of employment to that applicant. So we'll tell them this is the position that you're being put forward for, this is the salary, these are the details. From there, it goes through a number of hands. So it's going to go through the certification specialist who is going to finalize all of those certification pieces. She wants receipts, she wants uploads, she wants documentation of proof that these things are being put in place with DOE to get your fingerprinting completed and your certification applied for and all of those pieces. From there, it comes to me where I'm going to look at The resume, I'm going to make sure that we're placing the person appropriately on the salary scale. I'm going to make sure that that person has the skills that we're looking for the position that they're applying for. So to make sure that there's a good balance there. For me, it goes to the controller, which is Adam. And Adam verifies the position information. He makes sure that there's a budget code, that there's an open position, that we actually do have a spot for the person that we're hiring. From there, it goes to our executive director of operations, which is Bill, and Bill does a check of what I've done and what Adam has done. So there's a multiple layer of eyes there. And from there, it goes to the superintendent, where he will do a final look through. Are there any questions, concerns, things that he is anticipating that might be problematic? The nomination can be stopped at any of those stages. So if any one of those people get that nomination, get their eyes on it and have a question, we can stop the nomination right there and do a little digging into whatever that question may be. From there, it comes to the school board. And that's where you guys get to make the final call on approving the nomination for the person or not. Once you guys have said, yep, we're good, we're approving this, and that's when that person then comes in and starts their onboarding with human resources. And that's all of the documents and benefit enrollment, things like that. It's important to note that at that point in time, the person is hired unless we have a problem with the I-9 form. So they have to be able to verify that they're eligible to work in the US, and that happens at that stage. And if they can't do that, then the nomination is kicked out. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, retirement benefits, things like that. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Sometimes I get asked, well, do you Google applicants? Not generally. And I'm really not a big fan of applications that have people's photos on them, actually, because it creates a bias, right? We all know that what is reported in the media is not always correct. You are looking generally at something that is an allegation, is a claim, hasn't been substantiated. I'm speaking particularly about things that you read in the newspaper that say this person was investigated for, or this person was charged with. Yeah, those are questions that, that we want to know. But you also want to be very careful about saying, I'm not going to hire you because so-and-so media wrote a notice about you. Then you're looking at some discrimination, you're looking at bias, you're looking at a lot of other issues. And when you look at people's Facebook pages, if they're a public page, public-facing page, you're seeing everything about their life. It's really easy to look at that and create a bias in your own mind about, is this person going to be a suitable applicant for us or not? So if we're going to Google somebody, it's going to be because there's a question that has come up along the way that we think that might benefit us from, but that is not a practice that we're going to do for every applicant that comes through that door. Does anybody have any questions?
Member
No,
Glant?
Well, thank you. I have had a constituent send me an email once about family working for family, having two people in the same building working. One is could be a principal and one could be a librarian or something like that. What is your take on that?
So we try to make sure that if that is going to happen, that there are multiple layers between them. So for instance, if you have a librarian who is going to be working at Montello, and that librarian is related to Principal Sachs, then that librarian is not going to be monitored directly by Principal Sachs. We're going to make sure that they're assigned to someone else, another person in administration, so one of the assistant principals, one of the building directors. We're going to have someone else sign off on their absences, their time cards, and handle any of their HR issues. So we definitely try to make sure that no one is put in the position of having to defend why they said their daughter can do this and this person can't, because that is a reality here in Lewiston. There are a lot of family members that work together, and we have a lot of family members who work here in the district with each other. So we try to be very conscientious about how we're placing them in hiring, so they're not directly working or answering under someone that could be problematic for.
We also have a nepotism policy where if that situation does happen, it can be brought to the school committee so that you're aware and you can allow certain things to happen, or you could say, I'm not comfortable with this as a board to approve or not approve a nepotism situation where, I mean, the board approved my wife as an example, who's an educator at Farwell. So obviously there's a connection there. So she's supervised by her building principal, not by me. And then when she has HR related things, they go to other people. Karen handles any paperwork that might otherwise come to me. So there's a process.
Member Bowden?
Thank you. So before this meeting tonight, we did receive an email from a constituent of Phoenix Wise, actually. And she had a few questions. I think you did answer most of them in your presentation, but I figure I just want to make sure that her questions are answered. So she did want to know two questions. To the application for employment, have you been formally investigated while in a voluntary or professional position? If so, explain. And you did say that that is a question that you ask. Do you ask, have you ever been placed on either paid or unpaid administrative leave while in a voluntary or professional position?
Yes, and
That's the question.
that's part of that question of have you ever been subject to an investigation or
Okay. So if somebody were to answer yes, are they still in the running for that position?
if somebody were to answer yes, we would have a very long pause. And we would need to say, you need to tell us about this. What is this? And that potentially could lead to conversations between me and the prior employer, their director. That could be a superintendent to superintendent conversation. That could be something that we come to the school board and say, we have this applicant, they've disclosed this. What are your feelings about this? So that does not necessarily mean that they are out, but it also does not necessarily mean that they are in. It is definitely cause for pause across the board.
Okay, so that kind of answers the next, what if an applicant has something in their background that gives the interviewers pause? So that you just answered that. Let's say somebody is coming from a higher up position in a different district, like a admin position, and they're applying in our district for something much lower on the scale. Does that give you pause?
We definitely want to know why.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, if you're taking a big step back, unless you're a retiree who has decided, you know what, I just want to come in and I just want to be an ed tech and come in, do my thing and go home but still be involved, we're going to ask why.
Okay. So you did at the end have a list of where the application process goes down through, which is great. She also wanted to know, she said in a conversation with you, you have said that there's about a dozen people that review an application before the applicant's name comes before the school committee. So she wanted to know which of those 12 people are responsible for reviewing applications and ensuring those questions asked were adequately answered.
So, in speaking to this constituent, when I say to her about a dozen, it really depends on the position, right? So if you're looking at someone who's a principal, you're likely going to have a panel of educators or administrators who are going to be part of that initial applicant's interview, first interview, second interview. Then it's still going to come to HR and it's still going to go through those additional 5 to 6 people there. So it's still after you get through the application stage, and the interview stage, and you've met with anyone who has a stakeholder piece in that decision, it's going to still come to Dingley, whether it's a custodian or the superintendent. It's going to go through the same process where it's going to be looked at by the search specialist, me, Bill, Adam, the superintendent, and the school board. And if there are other people that maybe have information that could be potentially helpful, if we have someone who's a food service manager from another school and they're applying with us, we might talk with our food service director. She might have some insight that maybe I don't have because I don't work in food service. So it depends on the position, what the question is, but there are at least the people at Dingley plus the number of interviewers at the school, depending upon what that what that position is, who are looking at an application before it gets to you.
Okay. I feel like you kind of answered this question as well, as far as Googling the candidates. So I'm going to kind of twist her question a little bit because I also have experience with being on the hiring committee for principals in this district. I do recall asking the question one time, like, "Oh, we only have this many that we're going to see. Why aren't there more applicants?" And I remember being told, "Oh, well, some of them just weren't qualified. Some of them we Googled and we didn't like what we saw." And then we end up with, the ones that pass through all of the checks and balances. So she's wondering if LPS is treating applicants all of this the same by asking the same questions in an interview, why wouldn't LPS apply the same standard with Googling every single candidate?
Well, I am not on every single interview panel, so I can't speak for every single person in the district. I can tell you, speaking from my position, I don't recommend it. And that is for all of the reasons that I said earlier. Now, I've been in this district for not quite 4 years. It'll be 4 years in June, so I can't speak to what happened before me. But I can tell you that the probably 2 or 3 times that it has come across my desk that, hey, there's something else going on with this person, we have not always been able to look at Google and say, yep, we can confirm that. There are so many things that are out there that somebody may have been charged with something, somebody may have been investigated for it, but legally, how am I supposed to, or how are we supposed to deny someone employment when you cannot confirm it and the people that you speak to will not confirm it? If somebody accuses me of something that's wrong and I get, terminated, or I lose my job, or I don't get a job opportunity because of something that somebody wrote on a Facebook post, first call I'm going to make is to my attorney. I would not recommend it as a practice. I think that if I had an applicant in front of me and someone that I knew or someone who had a vested interest in that position or was aware of that position and that applicant said, hey, you might want to know about this, I might go digging, but we need to be able to verify it. There has to be a criminal record charge. There has to be something with the DOE. There has to be some formal something that we can point to say, this is why you're not going to get hired.
So it looks like her final question is, does LPS have a process to check internal files to see if an applicant has worked for the district before?
We do. We actually note our frontline software, which we've had for, gosh, probably 12 years now, 12, 13 years. The old system was archived, so Frontline was put into place. And we actually note that system. If there are people who are termed, investigated for any reason and termed or resigned due to that, we put a discreet little note in there to please contact us so that we can talk about what that looks like.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Counselor Harriman, I saw your hand before.
Thank you. So I guess I just wanted to go back to Googling someone. I understand the concerns that you brought up about not everything that you read is true, and you could also get into, an unconscious bias situation. But I wonder if that could go maybe later in the process, like in the final stages before it comes to the school committee, once all the other things have been checked, because you can often learn a lot about someone, even just the way they interact with other people, the way they talk to other people, by the way they comport themselves on the internet. So I think it could be useful, but maybe at the later stages or something in the process.
Member Eames?
You're next. Several times you've mentioned that it comes to the school committee, school board, and I'd like to understand better what that means. So we have the consent agenda. No, I'm wondering where the echo is. Is it just
Oh, I don't
me?
hear an echo.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We have the consent agenda. That's for regular hiring and people who are leaving. Is there, and then I guess within the school system, if somebody's promoted, we often vote on that. So is that what you mean, those two things?
That is what I mean. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Member Harper?
Thanks. So thank you for the presentation. I also wanted to go back to the Googling piece to, I think the constituent had a related question in here about, um, what if, I understand if it's a Facebook post, someone writing, here or there, but what if it is a news article from a source that could get sued without some amount of evidence to back up a claim, for example, about sexual harassment, which, I think there's, different types of things that people can be charged with and that may or may not have like an more of a concern for like the being hired within the school district. So yeah, thoughts around that.
I want to be careful because I know who you're talking about. So I'm going to try to not be detailed about this particular incident. But when something is brought to our attention, we do the best we can with I've worked for many employers, and I can say an extenuating amount of effort to find the truth out about that. I think that if you're looking at asking the district to Google every single employee that applies here, then we're going to be talking about adding on positions to the Human Resources Department. The reality of that, and you see the number of applicants that we have, and come August, it's not uncommon to have 150, 200 applicants on an agenda. So the reality of doing that for every single applicant is a huge lift. But when we do have someone who comes to our attention based on known factors from someone in the community or someone who works for us or a parent, we do jump through the hoops to try to make sure that we're doing the best thing we can for the district by employing or not employing that person. And those are many, many, many hours of conversation in the district, in Jake's office with stakeholders about what does this look like and what is the reality that we can base our decisions on here. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure if it gave you as much detail, but I'm trying to not give out a lot of detail about that particular instance.
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing you say that it's very much a capacity issue.
There's a huge capacity issue, yes. But know that if there is a position that that is brought to our attention by someone, or we have a reason to think there may be something else kind of going on here, the hours spent on trying to make sure that the best hires being made are not small.
Yeah, I can imagine that. The other piece that I was wondering about is sort of like, I understand that there's maybe school districts that don't divulge information. And yeah, that's unfortunate. There, yeah, and
Many do not, because what happens and what we see is we may have a question. There may be a question about an applicant that comes up before or after the fact. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I would rather not hire somebody because I'm the one that has to then turn around and do the investigation. So if it is about making sure that we're hiring clean up front, that is the goal. But sometimes you don't know things, right? So when you have some of these things that kind of come to you, the most you can do is question and look for credible sources. And when those credible sources confirm nor deny, you have to go on what your experience is and what you've seen with your own eyes. So there's a balance there too.
Yep. I guess I'm curious if there was, I don't know, a standard for like the types of things that would, a claim that might rise to a level of concern, that
It's going to be pretty low. If there is something that someone is concerned enough about a potential employee to bring it to me or to bring it to the superintendent, we're going to ask some questions. None of those things are going to be tossed to the wayside and, well, let's just see what happens. That's certainly not how that's going to operate. We're going to ask questions, we're going to make phone calls, but we can make decisions based only on the information that we get and that we can verify.
I think it's worth noting, there are a number of employee or potential employees that are matriculated through the process that don't ever get to the committee level because we find something. And so I guess I also don't want it out there that we just hire whoever, because we are very specific and detailed in our process. Is it perfect? I think you can always grow and learn, but there are people that don't get through because of certification, complaints that are known, prior history. There's a lot of reasons why we don't move names forward.
Mhm.
And it's about working with our children.
Right.
We're talking about working with our children. So it's critically important to us to do this as well as we can.
Member Gwen, did you still have a question? Yeah.
Not so much of a question as a statement, is I agree with your practice of Googling, whereas there could be a lot of bias. As we know, things are out there and anybody can say anything and there's no repercussion on that. So I agree that Googling is kind of like, something you would do as you say you would do it. So I think that's a good policy.
Member Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know a couple of them were talking about this. I just hope we get a little bit more information. So a situation where someone's in the hiring process and they say, yes, that they had been put on some kind of paid administrative leave or voluntary, something like that in the past. Do we have like a specific set of like things that this would disqualify you, this wouldn't, or is it entirely up to the discretion of the hiring committee?
I think there's so many variables to something like that. For instance, we as a district standard will place people on a paid administrative leave if there's a question of a conduct that could impact our students or our staff negatively. That doesn't necessarily mean that we really even have an inkling of anything to go on at that point. But the first thing we're going to do is make sure that our kids are safe and our staff are safe. So if there's been an allegation, we're going to put that person on paid leave. So anytime that someone discloses, yes, I've been put on paid leave, we're going to want to have a conversation about why. What was that for? What were the details? And make some calls from there. I don't think you can make a uniform blanket statement that anyone who's ever been placed on leave or investigated, that we're just not even gonna bother with, because I think that there are some really great people out there who may have been caught up in something, named in something wrongfully, accused of something that they didn't do. And I think you have to take each of those steps on an individual basis and do your due diligence to dig those details out.
So in that case, if someone was hiring and they did have something in the past, whether it was legitimate or not, you guys would still do like the research. Would you be Googling them at that point too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, because that was just a question. I mean, you kind of wonder like what's going to disqualify someone and what's not, and everyone's standard may be a little bit different. And we just want to make sure the kids are safe, obviously.
Yeah, you want a threshold. Everybody wants a threshold, and that's the easy go-to. But unfortunately, lives and work and people are so complicated that our go-to is a standard of put someone on leave and then we'll figure it out. Whereas that might not always be the case. So you can't kind of speak for every employer out there that that's going to be their same practice.
Makes sense. I guess like my personal preference is that if we're going to be Googling anybody, we should be Googling everybody. That's just kind of my take on it. And as a school committee member, like when the buck kind of stops with us, and so if we're the ones hiring people, if we give the approval for someone who then comes in and victimizes students in the district, and there is something online that we could have used to research that a little bit more and we missed it, to me, I would personally lose sleep over that. I would take personal responsibility for that. So I guess as a school committee member, I want to know that we're doing the proper research on every single person. And if I know that the district isn't Googling everybody, that means I'm going to start Googling the applicants that are on the consent agenda. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. So I feel like there could be maybe a little bit more we could do in that regard. But again, like you mentioned, we have to find that balance between not biasing ourselves in the process with getting the correct information out. And I know some news sources are obviously like illegitimate, but I mean, if like Channel 8, Channel 6 are both covering something, then to me, that's like, all right, there might be something there. But again, that might be more of like an internal process situation there. I do appreciate all the information you've given to us tonight. Personally, like, I served in the school committee before. I've seen applicants come up or issues have arisen, including for administrators. I'd like to see a policy for us where we could have an executive session before if we have any concerns. I don't think it's fair to bring up those concerns when sometimes the people are in public with their families here at our meetings, and then we're saying, oh, we have issues with them. It just feels so wrong to me. And like it happened once, like, 5-ish, 6, whatever years ago. And I've been really turned off by that process since then. So I guess that's probably more for these guys than you. And yeah, like talking about balancing the concerns around the students' safety and bias, you talked a bit about. Yeah, I mean, that's all I really have. It's just, the buck stops with us, and we just want to make sure the kids are safe. So anything we can do to kind of, get rid of the cracks in the system is going to be best. And, going forward, I think we as a committee should really be as vocal as we can about pursuing change in state law. And really get the DOE to, in my opinion, start doing their job and make sure our kids stay safe. Because I'm glad that we do it the right way. But not every district does, which is disappointing. And so anything that we can do to support our kids, support you guys in HR, and just support every student in the state, I think we should be pursuing. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just make a comment, and that I have a question as well. So just it's similar to what Member Jensen was just saying. I do think the Googling question, that does seem to me like kind of a crazy Band-Aid, that to have to try to Google whether or not somebody was potentially had some wrongdoing, especially in another school district, that seems like not the right way that an employer should have to find that out. So to the extent that there is, changes at the state level that the committee can support in some way, that would make a lot more sense to me than having to figure out the right way to Google the hundreds of people who come up. I could see maybe as kind of a stopgap having some just like quick search of only, not looking for like the political commentary or whatever, but just, did some kind of allegation come up? But I think we would all feel maybe more secure if we knew that at least the other school districts had to share that information. And it's not totally clear to me why they don't already. So that's the comment. The question, though, is, I think we've been talking a bit more about sort of the bad actor side of things, but I'm curious just more broadly, do you feel like the hiring process is working well? And is there anything that you could use from us to improve it?
I do think that it works well. I think that the people whose hands touch the nominations that come through have nothing but the district's best interest in mind and at heart. I think that questions that have come up for applicants in the past have been very valid questions. Like I said, I have not, this is not the first place that I've worked for, and I can tell you that I have been more than wowed a lot of times by the extent to which our district as a whole will chase down things to make sure that the right decision is being made, or that we're making the best decision that we can with the information that we have. I think that what Member Jensen alluded to with perhaps a cursory look over the list of people that are being put forth to school board. We know that, this time of year it might be 1 or 2, but in August or September, it's going to be 150, 200. And while we're trying to look at all of those, if we had all of your sets of eyes on those names too, it may be something that might ring a bell with you that would be worth sharing. So that piece I think is valid. I do think that anything and everything that you can do at the state level to help push the fact that schools need to be required to report these things and need to be required to share them is important, because that's been a hurdle that we've had to deal with multiple times. And not saying that, every district just disregards that. Some do, and when they do, it can be problematic.
Thank you. Yeah.
I do think it's important to note, though, if something does come up in the hiring process, we need to be able to corroborate it.
Yeah.
And if we can't corroborate it, that employee or potential employee, they have rights as well. And we have to be very mindful of what can be corroborated, what's a claim, what's an allegation. And if we can't corroborate it, we have to just work on what information we have or dig further. So it's the Google thing that gives me pause.
Yeah.
Yes, it's time consuming, and I'm not opposed to Googling people as part of our process, but you get what, 10, 15, 20 hits on that first page. How, if there's something glowing there on page one, obviously we're going to dig further, but are there guidelines that we can think about for HR if we're going to look at people's name on Google? Is it 2 pages? Is it 4 page? Like, because it could come up, right? That, hey, you didn't see that on Google on page 9, that there was an allegation 20 years ago from something. You know, it may not have hit the press quite as hot as some other items because it couldn't be corroborated or there wasn't enough people to back it up. So that's my hesitation. I don't have an issue with Googling people, running the name real quick. But again, I don't know if we have a full-time staff that would just
Yeah.
scroll or troll, I guess, for that matter. Like, I'm worried about the thin line between the two of those.
And I mean, also Google results are not the same for everybody who looks. They are custom depending on who looks it up. So that's not, having that as part of a standard process is a lot of challenges with that. I would agree with that.
For your
But yeah.
extensive ability.
Yeah. Member Bowden, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so just as a process thing, especially for new members, I don't mean to single you out, Julia, but just like for your benefit, right? So if you are going through a consent agenda before a meeting and you happen to see a name on there that you're like, oh, like I feel like I know something about this person. Can you explain what sort of process that a school committee member should follow if we see something like that on the consent agenda?
As soon as you see it, please reach out. Yes, absolutely. Please reach out to me because then we will immediately start digging right away. We've also had instances where we've removed names from the consent agenda because someone internal or someone on the school committee gave us a heads up that you might want to check something. Some have been delayed, but we couldn't corroborate or something to that effect. Or we found out, oh, we actually had the wrong person. I thought it was this person. And that actually happened not that long ago. But please let me know right away so that we can dig further, verify, because we have to withdraw. We can pull it off the consent agenda, but we can withdraw the nomination. But at least we want to do our diligence behind it.
And if, just by example, let's say I didn't look at it before the meeting, right? And I sit down and I'm looking through it right at the beginning, right as we're starting the meeting, and I see something. So then I should.
You can actually ask for the personnel section of the
consent
consent
agenda
agenda to be set aside
Okay.
for discussion.
I just wanted to make sure that that was like fully transparent with the public and with this committee.
But I would ask that you ask to set aside the whole section so that we're not saying a name aloud. Can we set aside, this person? Like that's really awkward. But we can set aside the personnel components of the consent agenda for sure. And then what I would advise for a process after that is at some point in that meeting where it most fits, we either have, and I say this with caution, an executive session, which may not be on the agenda, so you'd have to follow steps to do that, or we just let it sit and you can let me know what your concern was, because if we have an executive session about an individual, they have a right to be in the room. So we can't sit and talk about it in an executive session right away unless they're here. And they have to have the option to participate with advance notice, so.
Thank you. Member Eames, did you still have something?
It was just, I was thinking we could divvy up the alphabet and each one of us could take a little chunk and that wouldn't be, but then when you said everyone's Google system is different because of the way the algorithms work, that would not work. So I withdraw that even thinking that.
Fair enough. Okay. Is there any public comment on this topic? Okay. Yep, we have one.
Hi, Melissa Dunn. I'm a community organizer. I work with youth at risk and homeless and anti-violence work. As far as I know, protection from abuse and protection from harassment orders are not or don't show up on background checks. They'll only show up on background checks if there's been findings of abuse through the courts. And so I'm not sure maybe how people might be able to follow up on that. With Google, I was thinking maybe there could be a disclaimer to applicants that they may be subject to background checks, including like internet searches, maybe just not Google specifically. It could include Google. And I wasn't sure if you had an employee policy on Google already, like their use of it and however, but maybe there's something in that policy that might be similar to, this. I just think the internet search thing would be good as a disclaimer because it's not really saying fully like you're going to rely on it. And you can't really rely on a Google search because sometimes it doesn't bring up things. One thing about Google that irritates me, you have to search the person's name and the state where they were, if you have the residence where they lived in the towns, to bring up information. You can't just bring up a person's name and it bring up something in Wisconsin. I found this out when I had to file protection from her abuse order against my roommate. I found out she used 4 different aliases, assaulted a police, and tried to kill her husband. So it gets complicated with the Google. And I also served on a legal aid on the board for over 5 years. They had policy just automatically if somebody was involved in DV, arrested, that they were automatically terminated. So, but also I would be mindful that like reliance on Google could be used to be like classist or racist against certain people. I think the biggest issue that people should be taking particular concern of when it comes to Googling folks is if there's signs or indicators of proximity or association of propaganda or far right extremism, especially the symbolism, because sometimes, not always, but propagandists are raging, radicalized, and violent. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other public comment on this one? Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts from the committee or anything else that you would like to share? Okay, seeing none. Oh, sorry. Yes, Member Harper.
I just wanted to say, thank you for the presentation. I'm glad to, understand this a bit better. And, obviously this is kind of coming up because there, was potentially, there was a concern about maybe missing something and a way to improve our process. I also just wanted to say for anyone who is watching this at home or in the room and like thinking about working for LPS, like I hope that folks are aware that, this is all in service of protecting our students and that there's so many wonderful people who should be considering working for the Lewiston School District. So not to be, overly intimidated by it. It's more just trying to like look at what our process is and try to see if we can make some improvements for the safety and benefit for everybody. So that's all.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Any final thoughts on this one, or should we move on? Okay. Thank you, Director Glenn.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is number 8, to receive the financial audit review with guests from RHR.
Austin's going to bring them in. So this is an audit we've used for a long time, but he also was scheduled for 6 and has a stop at 7:30. So the good news is the audit is very clean and highly successful thanks to Adam and his team's work. But I don't want to delay.
Hold 1 second. Sorry. You should be able to hear him now if he talks.
Ron, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me, folks?
Yep.
Yeah,
Good
we can
evening.
hear you. Thank you.
So I'm Adam Hansen. I'm the controller for LPS, and I just wanted to briefly introduce Ron. Ron is the managing partner for RHR Smith. He's the R in RHR Smith. So without further ado, Ron, thank you for waiting and take it away.
Adam, how would you like this to roll? I know that the audit, we've got a presentation with excerpt of it. Can I share my screen and kind of go through those excerpts?
Yes, please just share the PowerPoint, walk us through it, and then if there are any questions at the end, we can take those.
He can turn his camera on if he has one.
I can't turn my camera on, folks. I'll lose internet connection. I had to relocate, for this venue. So I'm trying to save all power here for this presentation. So, Adam, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see it, Ron.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through the highlights of the 2025 audit. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm Ron Smith. I'm principal, as Adam said, with RHR Smith and Company. We do, I think, more than half of the school systems in the entire state of Maine, like 90% of them in the state of Vermont. So we know who you are and what you are. We also do the city's audit and over 50% of all the audits for municipalities in the entire state. So we know a lot about who you are, what you do, what's going on out in your world and industry. And I've been doing it for 35 years, folks. So any questions you may have, please use this as an opportunity to to ask. So first, we'd like to start with the kind of like what the process is, what you do, how you do it, and what you deliver us to the, so that we can put an audit together. And here's your responsibilities by bullet points. Basically, you guys are responsible for the best practices of the school system. You guys provide us through questionnaires, that we ask, of which we obtain an understanding of how the numbers get on a piece of paper and are they right. And certainly, there's two audits we do for the school department. We do a financial statement audit and a compliance audit because you guys get over $16 million worth of federal funds that are passed through the state of Maine Department of Education. So that's kind of what you do. You guys deliver us like what those funds are, your general operating budget for the school system, and any other information we really ask so we can opine on the financial statements. So, and this is our opinion, and we can confidently say that I'm pleased to report that the school department, received our highest opinion and unmodified opinion as of 6/30/25. Basically, the information that Adam and his group provided to us, was exactly as we had done. We worked with Adam and his group just to do any type of fine tuning and adjustments during the audit process. So what we were given and what you got back as far as our financial statement goes, received our highest opinion for the school department. Next page is a sheet, an analysis of kind of your important financial statements for the school department. And we try to do a 3-year comparison. So you'll see cash, assets, liabilities, and fund balance is obviously the big one. Let me just get rid of this. Fund balance is obviously the big one, so you can see clearly your total assets, in 2025 were comprised of $24 million. There's been a decrease in assets, and that's common for the school system just because you're coming out of the COVID area, the COVID funding period. So a lot of your balance sheet got diminished by the expiration of some of the grants, between the original COVID relief funds, and the ESSER funds for the school department. So that's been common, with the school departments, that we've seen throughout the entire state of Maine. So out of your $24 million asset portfolio, $21 million was sitting in pooled cash at the city of Lewiston, which is the common practice at the municipality. They hold on to your money. So liabilities, about $9.6 million, of which last year it went up about 300,000. That's largely in part, folks, to your accrued summer salaries and benefits attached to that. So there's nothing really there of significance. That number fluctuated a few $100,000 over the year before. And then the fund balance is really the biggest one. You'll see in 2024, you entered the year at about $16.6 million. You exited the year at about $14.5 million. I'll land you there right now. When you guys put your FY25 budget together, there was an expectation that you guys were going to use about $6.1 million of a carryover balance in 24 for your 25 budget. The good news is you didn't need that. You only needed about $2.1 million, of that fund balance number for 2025. So that rolls over again next year. And the reason why you didn't need that is largely in part that your revenues, your state allocation and Medicare revenue came in higher than what you estimated at the beginning of the year, which was probably the biggest topic of your expense piece of the budget, and it was about $1 million, I believe, that your transportation line item was exceeded, which was clearly covered by the excess revenues that you guys received in FY25. So good news is you thought your fund balance was going to go down by $6 million. Better news is it only went down by $2 million. So, and the chemistry is last year, as I recall, you were at about $7.1 million of unassigned fund balance. I believe that actually went down a few $100,000. Actually, it grew this year by about $200,000 to the $7 million. There largely in part that because of as I said, the additional revenues that the school received in FY25, which also puts you below your state statutory what you can keep. The 2-year look ahead period where the statute says that you can maintain the equivalent of roughly about 30 days of fund balance based upon your previous approved budget. So you are well within the compliance factor for the unassigned fund balance by statute that you can keep at the state. Next slide is we always like to kind of say the totality of your fund balance. As I said back, I'm going to slide back a slide just to kind of put some context to this one. Your totality is about $14.5 million of fund balance as of 6/30/25. Largely, as I said, a $7 million, a little north of $7 million is in assigned, committed. You guys committed. I believe it's a little over $3 million to your FY26 budget. And then the assigned, you have some money sitting inside, I believe $3 million for capital projects, future capital projects, which clearly puts your unassigned fund balance below the statutory limits. And I'm going to move these pictures out of the way here so I can see. So you can kind of see, really, as I just said, the pieces of the pie, that $7.1 million, which grew a little over a few $100,000 from the year before, once you satisfied some of the restrictions, from the year before. Here's really the cosmetics and details of the school's carryover balance of that $14.5 million as of 6/30/25. And again, here's a fund balance comparison. The unassigned fund balance, as I said, 6.8 going up to 7.1. There's been a targeted spend down of about 11.1 going back 3 years ago. So again, the school with its targeted spend down of its carryover balance has come out favorably, for the last 3 years is the best way I can say it, from what you expected to what actually happened at the school. And then your grant restrictions, your school grant funds, which is made up of about $16 million of federal funds passed through the State Department of Education and many other additional state funds and local earmarks that you guys have, fell by it's about $6.3 million. Don't be alarmed. That's nothing more than the timing differences between FY24 and 25 of how you spent your money. And the best way I can say it is that there was a planned spend down of your grants to the tune of almost $6 million in FY25. And then adult education, school nutrition, you can see kind of where you guys landed as of 6/30/25. School nutrition, I think that's beginning to be more of a conversation piece. We're seeing the trends of carrying forward with a lot of that stimulus money, that was put into food and nutrition, for the past 4 years because of COVID. We're seeing those days come to an end, you all, and we're starting to see the schools spending down, its nutritional programs, but certainly Lewiston, for the size of your program for food service, you still got about $145,000 left, much better than being in a deficit. And we certainly have starting to see some of the school systems reflect a deficit, in 2025 for sure. So adult ed, has a positive fund balance to be used for regeneration into the adult ed program of about $428,000. And these are all excerpts from your school audit as of 6/30/25. You'll see, as I just said, the favorable variances. You got almost a $5 million surplus in revenue, largely in part to state subsidy and Medicaid money coming in over what you expected, to the tune of about $4.8 million, you all. So. And then here's your revenues, 3 years comparison. You can clearly see that the school system's revenues have gone up, in the past few years exponentially, and that's been typical with all the school systems that we've seen out there, you all. So. Your expense budget, as I said, probably the biggest conversation piece is your transportation, as I highlight here with my cursor. Transportation overspent by $1.3 million, a couple others overspent, some of it mitigated by regular instruction, but all of it really mitigated by the $5 million of extra revenue collected, more than what you guys estimated in your 25 budget. Here's your expense breakdown, by category. The state requires you to build your budget based upon 11 cost centers. Here they are, really kind of with the exception of the transportation. That was the biggest one that we really kind of saw that came in, more than where your expectations were as you were putting your budget together. And these are the depiction of the 11 cost centers by statute. And then again, here's the other 3 major funds that you guys all have at the school department, the grant funds that I just talked to about. That was actually a planned spend down. The timing from 24 to 25, the school system actually spent a lot of that money. So it releases the restrictions, but also uses up the resources, at the school department. Adult ed, there's your adult ed, math that I talked about before. And then your school and nutrition program, so nothing really, there that jumps right out at me, and I would say one of the things clearly to monitor going forward for the next few years, out of a $5 million budget for food services, clearly $145,000 isn't a lot of money to carry into one fiscal year. And that's certainly been one of the conversation pieces as I'm starting to put together these presentations with school boards. One of the things that I always say, next 2 years, I really feel school nutrition is an area to monitor going forward. The way, so there were really not a lot of best, but I mean, it was, and this is a good thing for me to deliver. It was kind of a boring year, and that's good in our profession, because that just tells us that your business office delivered us the information the way that it should be, and that you got it back the way that it should be. So there really wasn't a lot of best practice matters to talk about worthy of really kind of going over during this presentation. So hats off to Adam and his department for that, because I'll tell you, for 30% of the entire school systems in the state of Maine, it typically doesn't roll that way, folks. And really, any questions that you all may have, I'm more than happy to answer them, to answer any, them, and certainly provide any feedback for you all.
Member Eames?
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Number one, can we get that printout, because we don't have it, that PowerPoint?
Adam, do you want me to send it there? I'll be more than happy to forward it to you, Adam.
Thank you, because that was much clearer than the tables that we did get. And the second question is a clarification. On page 31, it's 2B says, Lewiston Public Schools has not elected to use the 10% de minimis indirect cost rate as allowed under the uniform guidance, and I was hoping you would explain that.
So there's a federal statute out there. It's called the Code of Federal Regulations, and it's called Uniform Guidance. And typically what happens is that there's an indirect cost rate allowed for all government. The de minimis rate in 25 was 10%, and I believe it's gone up now with inflation for this next year because the threshold to audit your federal funds has been raised from $750 to $1 million. So it's been past practice with the Lewiston School Department that, and I would argue probably 95 to 99% of all the other school systems where they do not elect to take indirect cost or that 10% de minimis. They put all of the money into its programs that it offers. Title I, II, local entitlement, special ed. So all that money is going into all those programs and services that you provided, over $16 million of that, as opposed to, the business office coming up and getting an approved rate, either of 10% or a higher threshold with a cost proposal approved by the Department of Education. You've chosen, like many other school systems, not to do that because it's been a conscious choice to put those money into program services. And Adam and I actually had a conversation this past year. I think the movement's going to be over the next 3 years is that there could be more money available to the public school systems as this de minimis goes up. So there'll be a choice, a conscious choice that you guys will all have to make, either to fund your business office, superintendent's office, and other direct cost centers within your budget with that de minimis of 10%. And if you do, the drawback is it will take away from the program services that you directly provide within the Lewiston School Department.
Thank you.
Member Glant?
Well, I don't know if Adam or somebody else. So is what I'm understanding, or maybe I'm not, as of the end of June of this past year, we had a $7 million general fund. Is that still what it is, or when we go into budget season, do you think?
Yeah, we have 7.1 unassigned right now.
But don't forget, you all, you use $3,450,000 of it for 26 to balance your 26 school budget. So you're gonna have to, certainly kind of look into that crystal ball, you all, somewhere as you get in the heart of budget season, February and March. And good luck with that prognostication, based upon some of the things I'm hearing out of Augusta right now. So.
Member Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make sure I heard right, so the adult ed program is actually generating revenue,
Yeah, I believe you added, just bear with me 1 second. So, yeah, to answer that question. So, yes, it's generating revenue more than what it's costing you to run the program. In 2025, you guys generated an extra $54,000 of revenue, that you added to your carryover balance from the year before coming into this past year of about 375, which leaves you with a carryover balance, you all, of about 428, as I said, for adult ed, positive. So
that's fantastic. I know at one point it was always making money. Then for a few years it was, kind of costing some money. So to see that it's gone back, I'm
and
extremely
that's a
impressed.
great point. And and like I say, usually that conversation can go the other ways pretty quickly, you all. And I have definitely, even in 25, seen some significant commitments to adult ed, because of them using their carryover balances to kind of subsidize this budget that we're in for 26, future budgets. And like I say, adult ed is a program, especially for the size of the one that you guys have in Lewiston. That thing can go sideways fast. It just hasn't. And I think that that's what I say. That's definitely an advantage you guys have for sure. So for that program.
Thanks for everything, Ron.
Sure.
Any questions from the committee? Oh, yeah, Member Glant.
I'm sorry. I know there was some emphasis on the school nutrition program. I wasn't really sure. Could you go over that again, or?
Are you asking me, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yep. So the
Oh,
emphasis is simply this. Okay. I'm just doing sheer math, you all. You guys run a school nutrition program of about $5 million. You have $145,000 of a carryover balance going into future school and nutrition budgets to mitigate any over expenses, lack of revenues, things like that. That is not a lot of money. And like I say, for the past 3 years, school nutrition has been subsidized largely in part to COVID and COVID relief fund. Okay. So as those monies dry up, my advice to the Lewiston School Department and any other school system running a food and nutrition program out there, next to the actual cost of education itself in this country, food service is the most underfunded program that exists out there. Beware going forward, because you have very little money to subsidize, budget overages and other things that may come up during the year. So.
Well, thank you.
Adam, is there anything you need to add, or do we go ahead and let Ron go here?
No, I think we can let Ron go. I just want to say thank you, Ron, for presenting. Thanks for being patient with us tonight, and we appreciate our relationship with you and wish you the best. We'll be having different auditor moving forward.
Yeah, we wish you guys the best,
Contract is
Adam.
running.
Whatever we can help transition to that new auditor, we look for it. Everybody be safe. Take care.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much.
Nothing else from me.
Okay. So that is it for that agenda item then. And we will, sorry, were you going to add something?
I just wanted to say, if you have other questions, we can certainly answer them. But we're going to be going through, obviously, the budget process very soon as it relates to the nutrition piece, because Ron touched on more like the federal piece and the subsidies and the reimbursement pieces. But what he didn't touch on is when we issue a new contract and those folks get a raise, we start looking at a $5 million program, any equipment, any food costs, any things that are not reimbursed. It's a quick hit in an area that does not have much for additional funds around. So as he was talking, I was thinking about 100 different things. I want to make sure you're aware of it, but we'll spend 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks on that conversation. So.
And I should just make sure before we move on, there's no any public comment on that item before we move on? Okay. Okay, so agenda item, oh yeah, Member Harper, please.
It was my understanding that the state has been funding free school meals for students for the past, like, since COVID. So is it just a question of also like just other kind of components of the program?
So yes, there's a lot of revenue that comes in by way of reimbursement, like a direct model, but anything that isn't reimbursed, there's some operational costs, there's some per hour costs that we may pay people by contract more than they reimburse. And all of that's being chipped away at, I would say, over multiple years. If COVID didn't happen, we would be having this conversation years back. And we have not had to fund nutrition in our budget because of the reimbursement process and the fund balance. But we are at a point now where you'll start seeing numbers in the budget for nutrition specifically. The other thing of note in that was that transportation was over $1 million over last year. And we are watching those numbers closely this year, and it's running over big time. So some of this is just the nature of cost and what it takes to get kids to and from school, especially the special purpose components or the homeless student component. But we are keeping a very close pulse on that, and we'll have some budget updates for you start February for the current year, and then we'll start talking about next year.
And Reams.
On the 21st at 10 a.m. in Augusta, they're going to be discussing the school nutrition programs, LD 2017. And you can watch online, you can go up there and testify. That's one thing that's coming up soon.
Thank you. Okay, any other member comments before we move on? No. Okay. Okay, agenda item number 9 is the report from the school committee chair. I don't have anything to report. Number 10 is report from school superintendent.
I don't have any big items because we just met recently, but I guess a note that budget process is very much underway, at least from our perspective, and it's going to move very quickly between now and March. So, yeah.
Great. Lots to look forward to. Number 11 is the report from the City Council representative, Member Harriman.
Yes, so it's a busy week for City Council last week. On Monday, we had our first meeting with the new council, so the 2 returning members who were recently reelected and then 2 new members. We also had the first presentation of the LCIP, or the Capital Improvement Plan. There are some school-related items on there, but this was really just a quick overview. We'll be getting into those, all the different centers in the LCIP in future meetings. And we just had kind of the usual first meeting, housekeeping things, allowing city staff to do different things on behalf of the city council. We also, shortly after that, we had Member Osman resigned, and then we had a special meeting on Thursday of last week to discuss next steps in filling that seat. We learned from our city attorney that instead of having a special election like many people expected, the last time the charter was amended, not all of the changes got put into it. So not all the intended changes from the Charter Review Committee, got put into it. So we are actually going to, as a council, appoint somebody to that seat, even though it is nearly a full term. The council is taking applications until the deadline is this week, Monday, the 14th. I believe it was 4 p.m. Was the deadline.
Wednesday, the 14th?
Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you. Wednesday, the 14th of this week. We're taking applications, and then at our meeting next week, which is on the 20th, we will be appointing the counselor to that seat. I believe that is all I have for updates. Yeah, unless there are any questions, that's all I've got for updates.
Okay, seeing no questions, we will keep moving. Agenda item number 12 is update from school committee subcommittees. Have any met since the last meeting? Oh, and we still need to assign them. Okay, so we'll just move right along then. So agenda item number 13 is the school committee community announcements. Anything, folks? Yes, Member Bowden.
I mean, it's not so much an announcement, but I don't know where else to put this. So I was asked this week when the last school day is for seniors this year. So I pulled up our calendar and it doesn't say. So, oh, you don't tell them. Oh, okay. I mean, we have the last student day, on there, obviously, unless there's a bunch of snow days, but I didn't know if you could share what the last student day is for our seniors this year.
I can look. It's always the Friday before graduation, and they have days.
Graduation is on June 5th.
June 5th. So
Okay.
Karen's telling me the 29th of May.
So May 29th. Okay.
And that won't fluctuate, unless there's some kind of major something. That's a pretty hard and fast date because of the prep, marching practice, and all of the senior related things before graduation.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Councilor Harriman, that's up first.
Yes, one more thing I forgot. The Ward 5 school committee seat will hopefully be on our next agenda. That one's a little different. The mayor has to nominate somebody, and then the the city council has to approve that nomination. So that's kind of up to the mayor right now, but I'm hoping that it will be on our next agenda, and that we can get this seat filled and have a full complement here.
Okay, thank you. Is this directly related to that? Okay, Member
Yeah,
Bowden.
no, I just wanted to ask, Member Harriman, so has there been an application process started for the Ward 5 seat on the school committee? Because I haven't heard anything about it yet.
That's a good question. I think it's a little different because it's a mayoral nomination. So it's sort of, the mayor could have somebody in mind already. Yeah, it's a little different than the city council position because there's one other step where the person has to be nominated by the mayor. But I would encourage anyone who's interested to just reach out to the mayor and ask for that nomination.
Member Eames?
So two things. One, I was going to just remind people that the hearings up in Augusta have started again because the new session has started, and maybe you all get it, maybe you don't. From Maura Taylor, do you all get those announcements about what's happening? So I can pass this around for people to look at. It comes through the MSBA. So are you all getting the MSBA newsletter things? So you should be getting it through there. Maybe you aren't yet. Okay. So we can talk about that at the retreat, perhaps. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing was just my usual plug for a library thing. So April 11th is the mystery dinner, Wild West mystery dinner, murder mystery dinner competition, whatever you want to call it. April 11th at the library. Thank you.
Thank you. You had something to add?
Yeah, just wanted to say publicly that the school committee will be doing its retreat and orientation on the 21st in that evening. So just to, you all know, but others do not.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, number 14 is future agenda items. Anything people would like to bring up? Member Eames, I think I saw you first. Oh, okay. Member Harper?
I'd love to see a presentation on the measures that the district is taking to ensure school safety with a focus on preventative measures. This past fall, I knocked on a lot of doors, and it was clear from a lot of the parents and students that I talked with that school safety is a concern, and they didn't all have the same concern. Some were concerned about bullying, and some were concerned about all the way up to more serious forms of violence. But we all know that that's also a priority issue for our teachers and for staff retention, and to have safe and positive working conditions. I know that there are like evidence-based models out there that are around violence prevention that kind of engage like the entire school community, for example, in reducing isolation and promoting culture of kindness and understanding the warning signs of violence and what to do about them. So anyway, I think it would just be great for the committee and the public to just understand what proactive measures and preventative measures the district is taking around school safety and how we can support them.
Great, thank you. Member Eames?
Kind of related to school safety, I am concerned about the vagueness of our current policies about ICE and immigration enforcement and what we are supposed to do, who is assigned what duties, what are the rules, what do we all know, what do we need to tell people, and such. So I know we had a year ago or so, we talked about it, but I think it's time to revisit it. So get it onto a future agenda and very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other agenda items people would like to add at this time? Member Glant? Could you speak into the microphone?
Will we have a chance during our retreat to talk about future agenda items as well? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, good point. Anything else people want to throw out now, or save it? We can save it for the retreat as well. Okay. All right. With that, we will wrap up the meeting. The next item is to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Let's say moved by Member Bowden, seconded by Member Jensen. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous.